and we'll get started. All right. Welcome back to Live Free with Rebecca Packard. I'm so excited that you're here today. Today, I am beyond honored. We have Adrien Blackwell here, who is helping people in a huge way. You guys, I know you've listened to the podcast before. We've talked about money, we've talked about finances, we've talked about how those things interconnect with our self-worth, our identity, and how we show up in the world. And hello, Adrien is making miracles happen, and she knows that this can happen for anybody. In fact, that is what she does. She makes miracles happen, and she has a whole program around it. And we are really excited that she's going to be here today telling you about how she connects with that space. How is she providing that for other people, opening up that door to even walk through that space, to embrace that in your own life, to make that your truth, right? She's been on NBC News, Travel Channel, Magazine. This girl knows what she's talking about, and she is here to share it with us. Hello, Adrien.
Hello, and hello, everybody out there listening in La La Land.
Right? Welcome to La La Land. Here we are. Oh my goodness, we are so glad that you're here. Finances is a hot topic these days. Money is a hot topic these days. Self-worth is a hot topic these days. And I am so glad that you're here to tell us more about how you show up to help people to really shift that for themselves. I know a lot of people have this whole idea around like, well, when I'm rich, I'm happy, or if I make a lot of money, blah, 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 or some other social
Mm.
program and disconnect that makes them believe that something outside of themselves is more worthwhile than their own self and their own self healing.
You
And
want to
so,
hear my personal favorite?
yes,
When I'm skinny, I can be rich.
right, right, yeah. That one's always like, your bone structure is your bone structure. There ain't no way of making that smaller or bigger or different. Um, but yes, so tell us about you. How did you come to this space? How did you come to, like, this is your passion? I mean, you guys, we talk to people, and I'm only talking to people who this is their passion. This is how they're showing up in the world. This is how they're supporting people. And this is how she's changed her life and is now giving forward by helping other people do the same thing. So tell us, how are you doing this?
So, how I started out, I've actually been psychic my whole entire life. I remember an incident that happened when I was younger when my sister walked up to my father and said, can I go spend the night over my friend's house? And I, before he could get out a yes or a no, I made sure he knew. I was like, you do not let her go. Don't let her go. It's not going to turn out well. And I don't remember the exact words that I used, but I remember don't let her go. I remember that part very clearly. And I just remember the look he gave me. I will never forget that look, even though I was only 6, 7 years old. That he cocked his head and looked at me like, what is she talking about? And I was like, they have to see what I see. So it only made sense to me that he was gonna understand why I was saying, don't let her go. And so he told her she could go. And I was angry. I was upset by that because I'm like, how can you be so stupid? Like that was my thought form, was that everybody is seeing what I'm seeing, and yet you still don't care enough about her to tell her not to go. So that night around 11 o'clock at night, my sister calls the house and crying and says she wants to be picked up. She wants to come home. And so that was the first time I remember having like a psychic feeling, or a psychic knowing, I should put it. It was 100% sure that this was going to happen, that it wasn't going to be good if she went, and that we could have changed that future had my dad had to say no. And so I thought everybody was just dumb and stupid for not listening to me. And it wasn't until I was 15 that somebody actually said, "Oh, you're psychic." And so this is how I've been presenting myself to the world all along, is as the psychic, and not even knowing. I just thought I was bossy. I thought I was like just a bossy person, because I'd be like, you can't do that because this is gonna happen. And so I actually, this is what's so interesting to me about my own darn life. Okay. I started out as a healer. Like when I went into a profession, I went to college to learn how to do Reiki. And then I kept going with the Reiki over the course of like a year and a half to becoming a Reiki teacher. But yet I didn't do it to become a teacher. I did it so that I could help my family. And so then, I go and take a massage therapy class and I become a massage therapist. And then I decide, after doing that for a while and having this man wanting me to grope his, what, I was just like, maybe this isn't for me because I'm not willing to do that. I don't know what this massage therapy world is. And it's so funny how you're like led to something and led away from something just to get on your path, right? So of course, I wanted to learn the human body. I wanted to learn how the human body functioned. And so that was a great part of what I was learning, but just to actually go and massage somebody wasn't my path. And so that kind of deterred me when I started realizing, that's what somebody was asking for me. I don't really want that to ever happen again. So no. And then, I kept going on this path of, I had this millionaire who was going up to go buy this retreat property, and he invited, it was something like 10 of us, like 10 healers and psychics, to come up to this, should I buy this property? He rented the whole place out for us, okay? And he's asking like, let me know if you think I should purchase it, if you think I should buy it, like, am I going to get it? So when we were up there, we found out that he had planned for us to go up there when it was for sale, but it had already been sold. And my best friend at the time, who is the one who kind of really helped me get into this whole, really who I am and not hiding being psychic because we were raised religious, she did a reading for him. And I'll never forget, because I was sitting next to her and she said, this place is going to go up for sale again really soon, and you're going to get it at a huge discounted price. So don't be discouraged that you didn't get to buy it first, that you didn't you get to buy it when it was on sale. And so sure enough, 3 months later, he got it. I think it was like 1 point something, 1.5, and I think he got it for $1 million. And so it was like just witnessing what other people were doing with their psychic abilities. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm going to be honest, because like, this is usually years ago when I was like in my 20s, I would have never said this to you. I would have never been this transparent and honest, but I'm not going to lie to you. Like, the reason I really was like, screw doing healing work and I want to be a psychic, because mind you, I love the space of both, right? It's like, if you could pick one passion over the other, which one are you going to pick? I'm going to be psychic because I think I could be rich that way. Like, if I knew the future, I would pay you thousands of dollars to know the future. You know what kind of like amazing gift that is? And like, people see you as a psychic and they're like, oh my God, I get to know my future. And it's so exciting. I was like, people will love me and I will be rich being a psychic. And so for me, it just seemed like a better business choice. I didn't think in a million years anybody would ever want to pay a healer a lot of money to do healing. Like, who wants to do healing work? So this was my mindset in my 20s, mind you. Okay. This was a long time ago.
Oh, those 20s, they're so sneaky.
And you have to, in all reality, especially when you have kids, you really do have to think about your financial future. I mean, that's what we're kind of talking about now. So for me, it was just a financial choice that if I was going to do one passion over the other, it has to be the psych. To the point where like people, I was so accurate, people would like just not speak to me. They would literally just sit there and just be like, how did she know that? Like, what, how, there's no way. And I remember this one time I did a reading for this woman and I said, is your father in the hospital? I was like, I just keep getting that your father's in the hospital and I need to talk to you about your dad. And she just sat there for 3 minutes would not say a word. And I'm like, are you okay? What's wrong with you? Like, are you okay? And she goes, I'm in a shock right now, because how would you know that? How do you know that? Like, you can't research that, right? You can't lie and pretend you're psychic. Like, you knew my father wasn't, like, you're a real psychic. Like, that shocks me. So I guess people go to psychics to be entertained versus get actually real information, is what I found out. So that was my life. I did TV and I met celebrities and I had this really cool psychic life. And I was watching the news one day and I saw a woman doing healing work on the news, which was phenomenal, because when do you see healers on the news? Like, what? That doesn't happen. And I heard, in the future, you'll be doing this work. You'll be doing that work. And that was a voice, because my guides can talk to me just like me and you were talking. And usually it comes out as a sentence. And they said, you'll be doing this work. And I'm like, whatever, because I'm not a healer. I don't know what you're talking about. So of course, the opportunity comes like 6 years later. And I said no. I said no to the opportunity. And my friend was like, it's the most phenomenal thing I've ever felt. You have to try it. And I said no a second time. And the third time she persuaded me by saying, just try it. She will give you 15 minutes free. And I promise you at the end of 15 minutes, you'll want to take the class. And I said, okay, I'm willing to do that free 15 minutes. And whatever she did, she did a healing on me. And I remember telling her there was an issue I had my whole entire life that I wanted to get rid of. And within 15 minutes, it was gone. And after about a day or two, I couldn't remember what it was anymore. It was like it never existed. And that trips me out to this day, because I know it's not there. I just know it's not there. And so I was like, I want to do I want to do this work. So that was the moment out of everything. And I didn't even want to be a psychic anymore. I was being drained on it. So I knew I was looking for a career change, but I thought maybe I was going to go work for somebody, not anything I've ever wanted to do in my life, but I was getting burnt out on being a psychic. And let me tell you guys, when you feel burnt out on your work, when you feel like you don't want to do it anymore, and you start to hate the work you're doing, because it was so extreme for me. I was hating. I did not want to connect to people on the phone anymore. I was done. I definitely didn't want to meet with people in person. I realized that what that is your soul is saying, this is no longer for you. Your training is complete in that area. And so, because I don't hate it anymore, I don't want to do it professionally, but I can't sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to pick up the phone and do a reading. I hate this. I really realized that it's just your soul saying it's time for you to start seeking something different. And it has to be so extreme that you're willing to make a change, because it's not easy to make a change. It's not easy when you have income coming in one way and you're paying your bills, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I shouldn't be making money this way anymore. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So that dislike and that hate comes in at the perfect time. And that's how I became a healer. I felt a passion for this. It changed my own life. And I was like, and I had been doing healing work at this point for 12 years, and I had still never experienced anything like that. And we're talking about medical qigong, Reiki, reconnection, regenesis, healing would find me anywhere. As I could be walking down the street and somebody would be like, I feel like I'm supposed to tell you about this healing and give it to you. And I'm just like, cool. And so if that wasn't a sign, if they weren't trying to give me a sign, I don't know what it like. And even when I was doing psychic readings, I was doing healing work, which I found out a couple of years before I became a full-time healer, which I didn't realize. But people would get off the phone and they would be healed.
Yeah.
So
opening that door and sharing that message, you weren't even aware that you were healing others through your psychic work. Nope. I love that you bring up the fact that because this is something I see over and over and over again with all kinds of people that I work with and that I see. And you said, I got to the point where I was just so drained all the time and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I see that happening to people. And in the space of it, yes, changing what you're doing, going to another space, but like today in the space of work and what you do, how often are you are you practicing energetic protection?
Me, I'm always protected.
Yeah,
it's been 20 years, believe me, when you practice healing work for 20 years and you're always learning how to protect yourself, it becomes second nature at some point.
Exactly. And when you started doing that, how often were you actively choosing it?
I would say every morning when I got up, I learned to make it a habit, a choice to do it. And every time I got into the car, because I had I don't know if it was a fear or not a fear, but I knew that I didn't want to die in a car accident. Okay. So I'm just going to be honest. So I felt like it was a phobia, but I didn't have a phobia because I refused to do it. I refused to die in a car accident. Right. So what I would do is, even when me and my mother would go travel, we would both actually put protection around the car and protection around us. And we never had to deal with, car accidents or close to car accidents except for once. And I even remember us having a discussion afterwards, which is funny that you even bring up protection, because I hadn't thought about this in years. And I just told the story recently. I forgot that she said, afterward, she goes, "This is the one time I didn't put protection around us." And I
Mm.
think that was probably the moment that I decided it always had to be around me.
It's always a thing,
Yeah.
right? I think that in the space of so many people listening are opening up, they're opening up to practices, they're opening up to healing modalities and psychic intuition and all of these things. And every single time I talk to psychics, healers, whatever title we want to put on our modalities and whatnot, the number one thing from every single person I've ever talked to who's been doing this for a long time and still loves their work is energetic protection, people. It's like taking your daily vitamin. So the more that you open up, the more that you come into the space, the more that you're acknowledging the space in between, and the more that you're calling in all of these different things. Energetic protection is one of those things. It's like putting on your socks and your underwear every day, right? Like, just go there, people, because I know that some people are real resistant to it. um in the space of that, and you're saying, like, you're even verifying it, is it's the one day you didn't do it and something happened.
Yep.
And some people will say, well, oh, that's coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidence, or oh, well, it just was a thing. And it's like, well,
Oh no,
it
let me tell you the story. This will eradicate that belief system. So I was down in Los Angeles to do a TV show, or radio show, because I did Playboy Radio for like 5 years. So I don't remember which one I was doing when I was down there, because we were down there all the time. And me and my mother would have to make a choice. Do we want to stay in a hotel again tonight and until I'm done filming, and then go to a hotel and then go back home the next day if it was only a 1 day shoot, or do we want to just go home? Because at this point you get kind of tired of living in the hotel. So this time it was like it would be a 12-hour ride in the car, 6 hours to Los Angeles and 6 hours away. And we were like, my mom said she loves to drive. So as long as we're driving at night, she's like, I'd rather just drive. So it's nighttime. We're on the 5 getting out of Los Angeles, and we're going around the mountain. I mean, literally, you can't see what's on the other side. And and all of a sudden there's this car. We're going 65 miles an hour, and there's a car stopped in front of us with its hazard lights on. And we don't have enough time to stop and avoid this car. If we don't go to the other lane, we're dead. And so when we look over, and I was actually asleep. My head was like on the window, and my eyes were closed. And all of a sudden I remember opening my eyes because I knew something was wrong. Like I could just feel like something is off. And when I opened my eyes is when we went around the bend and the car is in front of us. So I actually had to make peace within a second that I was getting ready to die with my family. And the one way I didn't want to die. And so the reason I was like, we're going to die because there's a car next to us. So we're getting ready to slam into either the car next to us or the car in front of us. It's one or the other. And then we're going to be rolling into the mountain. So I was like, okay, so we're getting ready to die because the car's not moving over to the side. She hasn't slammed into this car next to me yet. And all of a sudden, what I witnessed was the car being picked up and moved. The car next to us, not the car that was in front of us with the hazard lights on, but the car that was driving got picked up and moved. And I'm in such shock that I'm thinking, okay, we just died. we died and I don't realize it yet. So my mind is trying to catch up. And I was like, no, I'm alive. But like my mind is so like freaked out that I'm getting ready to die that I just witnessed something that didn't happen. Like my mind was just trying to make sense of what I just witnessed. And was it just me? Like maybe the car just scooted itself over. My mom, I'm just like, I can't understand what just happened. So we were silent for maybe about 2 or 3 minutes. And finally I was like, Mom, did you see that? And she said, yeah, the car was picked up and moved.
Mm.
And I was like, so you saw it too. Like it happened. And she goes, she said, the moment she realized that we were done for, she looked at that car and she yelled in her mind for it to move. And it did.
Mm.
It was like the hand of God, the hand of the universe, the hand of goddess came down, picked up the car and literally moved it, tripped me out. And I realized how powerful my mom was at that moment, and that every day that we leave the house, like you didn't put that protection bubble around me. You really should do that. Can we put a permanent bubble around there, please? But we never had anything. I'm telling you, I did this for years. We would drive back and forth because my mother loves to drive. She was my driver for years. And we had never had anything happen except for the day we both didn't do it.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, The more and more we talk to people, the more and more we listen to these stories, the more and more that people share those things that they're, I mean, we have conversations all the time of like all these really out there things, what society quote unquote would say out there things. And so the more that you guys are tuning in and listening in, it's like we are having these experiences every single day, and you're having these experiences every single day, and you might be seeing them differently now, you might be experiencing them differently now, but knowing that it's the little things that you do, the small practices that you do, that are going to start to really shift your life. And that's where I want to start talking about you shifting your life and how you came into like having the freedom. You're living free today, and the world is crazy today, like, oh my. But there's so many things pre now and now that you have been doing regularly that have helped you come to the space of living your life free of chaos and drama and excess and fake, and the list goes on and on and on. Can you tell us about some of those things, because we know that one of those things is energetic protection right off the bat, because nobody wants to have the stuff that comes with you when you don't practice that.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of the other things that you've been doing that are helping you be mentally, physically, and emotionally free?
You know, the biggest thing for me is always checking in with what it is that I truly desire. And if I don't know what I desire, then I tell the universe to bring me my heart's true desire, because there's nothing more awful than living a fake life.
Oh my God,
There's
right?
nothing more awful than that.
Thank you for saying that. So
It's
many people are
horrendous.
like, I'm scrolling through Instagram and this looks like somebody's real life. And what they don't understand is that person's made up and that's a studio and you've been being sold a lie that's not actually taking place. And
Well, and
yeah,
and
you
it's
think
funny.
you want that life, but that life is not even that person's life.
It's funny that you bring up Instagram, because back in the day, I'm like, this conversation is so crazy to me. Like, it's mind blowing, because back in the day we would say TV, you
Right, right.
know, having the perfect Disney characters and princesses and thinking that that's the way love is supposed to unfold has really messed up life. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's messed up
Oh,
love lives and relationships, because we were sat in front of a TV and we watched cartoons and Popeye, where, you know, Pluto, whatever his name is, Blutus, is trying to rape olive oil. Like, we sat in front of a TV and said, this is how women and men behave.
mm-hmm.
And so now you're using Instagram, and I'm like, oh my God, how life has changed.
Evolution of social programming. It's yeah.
Evolution of, yes, of social programming, magazines and the cover of magazines. And yeah, and now it's Instagram, which blows my mind that that's actually a thing right now. But yeah, that's how we're being programmed.
Right. And just like then, we can choose to tune in or not. And we need to make the conscious effort as like we're parents, adults, we're grown-ups, right? We need to make that choice. If we're watching something and we're like, just because every other kid in the world is watching this right now, I still don't want my kid to watch it. And you can
Yeah.
change the channel. Or even if every other person is playing a game on their phone or tablet, we can choose that that's not happening in our household, because it's not socially the program we want to be tuning into, which it brings us to the space of financial toning, that financial programming. I mean, those cartoons and everything all had that in there too, because it was like, oh, the sailor's gonna eat the spinach even though he lives in a tent or on a boat or wherever he lived. It was like random places, it was never the same place twice. Like that alone is sending a program of being aloof, of not having roots, of not settling down, of not having stability in your financial space to have a home, to create a home, and
Ooh,
all these
yeah.
other things. And so, like, changing that program is part of the innate work that you do. It's part of the foundation, the root of what you do is helping people to switch that program of all of that. And
It is,
so
but can we go back to what you were just saying? How did you pinpoint that basically he's like, he has no roots? Like, is this something you've thought about with Popeye before? I never thought about it.
it pops in my head, I say it out loud. Story of my life. Welcome to my land. So
Fascinating.
Yeah, I open my mouth, things comes out. But yeah, if you ever remember watching, he never, like, he's a sailor. He's always coming and going. He never is in one place more than one episode. And so
Wow.
it's just one of those things that they're like, hey, so yeah, he never actually has a home. He just
What a
is.
program. Listen, this is fascinating to me because for the first 26 years, not the first, yeah, maybe the first 26 years, we only lived in a place maybe 3 or 4 years at the most, but we were moving all the time.
Mhm.
And then when I became an adult, I was doing the same thing for a long time until I was like, I don't like this anymore. I think I'm going to go ahead and put roots down. I'm wondering if it had to do with Popeye. I used to watch Popeye all the time. And then later on in life, I was like, what a messed up.
It's a mess. Yeah,
What?
like think about
And
that.
then you just eat spinach. You don't have to work out. You just eat spinach and you'll get nice and
Right? You have huge muscles. That is
the
not
worst
true,
cartoon ever.
right? But in like the other aspect of that is like, look at all of them that were so similar. Like, I mean, everyone's like, oh, Bugs Bunny. I'm like, Mom, I'm not letting my kids watch Bugs Bunny.
Mm-mm.
That's not how we solve our rage and our anger.
It's
Like,
through
it's not how,
guns and hunting and everything else. Yeah,
right.
cooking people.
Like
The
they,
the worst was Pepe Le Pew.
oh right.
He was manipulative. He would change the color of his fur just to get her. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm just saying, that's
It's
crazy.
like next level. Like next level manipulation right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. When you sit back and you think about the cartoons we watch or we let our children watch or whatever, I think my daughter was Blue's Clues, which I still like Blue's Clues. I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
And so it wasn't really a lot to do with cartoons necessarily, unless we picked like, The Little Mermaid or we picked like The Lion King, because those are cartoons where, of course, mothers aren't there and mothers have died, but you have your mom, so I could teach you something a little bit different. But even games, I didn't buy my daughter a game thing until she was 19.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like if we play games, we'll play somebody else's game, or to be, so when we visit somebody, you can go into that world. But that's not how you need to be entertained. Where's the book? You know?
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, it wasn't until later on when she said she wanted to play this game, and we bought it so that I could play it with her, which was pretty awesome to do that. But that's as an adult, so she can tune it out when she needs to, or she can bring it into her life if she wants to. So yeah, picking and choosing. Parenting is not easy. And it's part of your financial future is to make sure your children understand finances, isn't it? And how to spend their time and how to delegate their time so that they can put energy towards making their finances and creating the life that they want. So all of this, everything that we're talking about is a part of financial freedom.
Mhm. Right. It's all intertwined. A lot of people want to look at it as all separate boxes, even separate boxes on a shelf or like aspects, and it's not. It's all intertwined. Every single thing is like, if braiding a hair, like braiding your hair, you just like put it all together and then the hairdo is there, right? But
Mm.
a lot of people want to say, oh well, no, 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 my finances are amazing, it's just that I have some clutter in my house, or my finances, they could use some work, but we're doing great, even though you're emotionally shut off and tuning out of life. And it's not, it's all one thing. So if you can treat it all in balance and you can show up and get real, all of the things start to like sort themselves. Like all those emails no one wants to read, you just archive them, right? So archive, because we started to look at it, we started to get real, we started to focus on the things that truly matter. And I think that also is a big part of it. The second you start to look at the things that truly matter and you tune into the life that you truly not want, not the life that the guy down the street wants, not the one that's on social media that is not, like somebody was like, oh my God, I really want to go to Fiji. Like, there's nothing wrong with Fiji, right? Like, beautiful, wonderful, awesome. I'm like, you don't like beaches and you don't like salt water or the ocean. So your dream trip is to Fiji to vacation on one of the huts in the water that's on the ocean where you don't swim, surrounded by beaches you won't walk on. Can we talk about that? I got real upset. And I'm like, is that really your dream vacation? And she was like, I'm going to go now. And I'm like, okay, I'll talk to you in a month. Because, like, sometimes that's how long it takes for people to process and come back. But, like, you know, but, like, you're helping people show up in the space of let's get rid of the things that aren't serving you. Let's get true to the story that's really yours. And then let's also acknowledge the spaces of that story that are no longer a part of the identity of who you are today or want to be tomorrow. So, in that, what are some of the things that you're working with other people doing, like having that conversation, showing up in that space?
For the most part, I have a very short conversation with people, which is, what is it that you want to heal? And I will tell you why the conversation is short. I don't really listen to my clients very often when it comes to what it is that you're trying to tell me, because usually you're trying to get me to not see the truth. The brain is the brain is so amazing. My alarm clock's going off. I don't know why my alarm clock is going off, but it is. It's like if it was set for this, it would have been like an hour late. I'm just saying. So, so basically, the way the brain works is the conscious mind can process 2,000 bits of information per second. And I'm a science geek. So mind you, I compare healing and science, money and science, everything in science together. And the subconscious mind processes 2 billion bits of information per second. So it goes from 2,000 to 2 billion. So there's 2 billion programs that are always going on your brain that you are not even aware that's being processed. You can only process 2,000. And so that means that when they hook up your mind to the electrodes and they do a dog whistle, your ears won't hear it, but your brain still will process the noise. That means you can hear what's happening with the neighbors down the street. That means you can understand that your family is your mom and your dad are in an argument, even if you're not hearing it or you're asleep. Okay. So the brain is always processing what's going on at every given moment. So when I go in to do healing work with a person, when it doesn't matter if it's health issues, it's financial issues, it's a block that you have, if it's a trauma that you've experienced, it's about me digging into the deepest parts of your mind and me understanding what has to be healed, because you don't know. You only know 2,000 that's here in the conscious mind. And that's determined on maybe what you watched on TV or a conversation that you had. The conscious mind is just being kind of dictated by everything around you, right? The dream that you feel like you're supposed to have based on what everybody else is telling you you should have. So the subconscious mind is where all the secrets are held. And what will happen is when a person taps in just a split second on a story that is holding them back, they will do everything they can to push me away from that thing, because the brain is here to have that data to say, this is the way the world works. So this is how we have to keep the structure of our world. So if you're used to abusive relationships within your family, you're going to look for an abusive relationship in some way, shape, or form, because that is the understanding that your brain has. I know how to keep you safe. Happiness, I don't know how to keep you safe. I don't know how to survive in that structure. And so everybody is going to do everything they can to change the subject. And I'm like, stop. You see how you just try to get me to get off that subject when I ask you a question? They're like, yes. And I'm like, that's what we're going to clear. That's what we're going to work on, because that's the reason it's coming up and you're trying to run away from it. And so I only listen to you because I respect you. And I know that you're going to give me a negative truth within it. But if you tried to tell me this is my problem, I wouldn't listen, because I would be like, I know better. That's not your problem, right? So in that regards, I don't necessarily listen to my clients as far as what they're trying to tell me the issue is, because I know where to go with that. And so that's how I'm helping people. I'm actually looking at how amazing your brain is and what it's done to really try to keep you safe. And I'm going to go, but we're going to retrain that brain to not only keep you safe, but to give you something amazing, to truly keep you safe, not in this I think I'm safe in the space of abuse. It's like, no, let's really get you safe, let's get you enjoying your life, and let's get the life that you want on track. And that's the reason when one of my clients did my course and she said, you wanted to make millionaires from this course. And she said, and you did. She became a millionaire 2 months later. And those are the kind of results, not necessarily people becoming a millionaire overnight, but those are the kind of results I'm used to, are miracles being sent to me. And I don't ever claim to do any of this. I can only give you what my clients tell me has worked, because once I'm done with the work, I just know something good's going to happen for you, but I don't know what that is. I don't look at that psychically. The way I use my psychic ability now is what needs to be healed. And so I've had people tell me that they've had cancer disappear from their body, that they had chronic pain disappear from their body. The number one thing that I've noticed with my clients is that they're on some kind of antidepressant or manic depressive. And when I'm doing that healing work on them, it seems like within 1 or 2 sessions, they no longer need it, and they'll be working with their therapist or doctor to get off of it. And I had one client who told me, she goes, I got readings from you for so long. I didn't want to do the healing work. And thank you so much for pushing me to do it. When I was like, just try it for free, because I knew she needed it. And she said, I went to my therapist and we're ready, ready to take get rid of this medication. And the therapist said, I've been working with you for 10 years and nothing worked. What did you do? And she said, I introduced her to your work. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm used to, just by looking at the part of the brain that nobody else is looking at, really.
And I love that you say that. Like, she'd been coming to you for readings for years and was like, yeah, cool. And then you were like, can you just please do the healing work for I'm going to give it to you. I'm just going to give it to you. I think a lot of people love answers. They love answers because they justify, or they give them here's a piece of candy, here's a piece of candy, here's a piece of candy. But the second that you go from here's a piece of candy to do the healing, fix the thing, and then you don't need to keep having the piece of candy, is the most beneficial. A lot of people love to read, but there's no action. There's no movement forward. There's no let's move beyond this space. And that, I think, is where the magic happens. That's where all of the happiness lies, is in that forward motion. So one of the things that you talk about also is helping people with that next step. That inspired movement forward, because that trips a lot of people up.
I would like to speak to that for a moment. I would like to rewind and go back to the book reading. I would like to let everybody know that if you're reading a book, you've already taken the action. You've already done something, because most people won't even pick up the darn book. I mean, they just won't. And so if you're willing to read, and sometimes there are people on this planet who are they're here just for the education. They're not necessarily here to take the action. The rest of us are, right? So I respect everybody where they are. I never try to push somebody past where they are. It's like, if that's where you are, great. But if that's where you are and you really don't want to do the work, then don't waste my time and tell me you are, right? Just be where you are and be happy that you're there. Because when you're ready to take action, you will. And you can't force anybody before they're ready. And you should never try to force yourself before you're ready, because I've done that and I've regretted it. And that's where I started respecting people's space. And all this comes with time, right? This comes with years and years and years of experience. But for people who are not sure what action to take, or when people are terrified to take action, even though they want to, that's where I come in, because I have a course, and it's called the Master Manifestor course. And the only person who didn't have an amazing success story was a person who didn't do the whole thing. Everybody who does the whole entire series always has miracles to come back and share with me. And we're talking about people who live with so much fear that they don't leave the house or won't go eat out by themselves. They have to have somebody with them, right? There's the terror of being alone, facing that fear and taking an action that completely being eradicated overnight. We were talking about people who are afraid to take action in their business, and all of a sudden all the gifts of the universe come falling in their lap. People think that taking action requires a lot of work. They feel like taking action means that they're going to dedicate their whole life to taking this action, and then they're going to live in their fear. Whatever they're afraid of is going to happen forever, right? This is the unrealistic fear of the subconscious mind. And really what happens is, when you touch on your fear and you take an action, you only feel that fear for about 30 seconds to a minute. You take that action, you've just leveled up what you're allowing yourself to accept in life, the increase, and people will start giving you gifts. You'll start having opportunities open literally for the next month, based on a 10-second action that you just did. So facing your fear and taking action isn't scary when somebody explains to you what taking action really means and what it looks like on the other side. Other than that, your mind will make up it's a monster on the other side.
Right. You're running from a 2,000-year-old program system that hasn't caught up with today's reality.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
bring it up, because so many people are like, I'm living today. I'm living today. I'm like, no, you're not. That tiny subconscious computer person in your skull is still afraid of the rock because it believes it's going to hurt you. We have to utilize the tools outside of us, which are the people who are surrounding us, which are the programs that are coming up that are being brought through people to support people in the level of change and the level of evolution and the level of changing their paradigm and the shifts that are coming around them, so that they can show up fully to continue that ripple. And the more that we open that door and everyone shows up in that space and shares from gratitude and love and from open-mindedness and acknowledging that, you guys, as humans, 99% of the time we walking around afraid, because that's what
Yeah.
our program system has been programmed with, because it keeps us alive, it keeps us breathing, it keeps us dirt side up. And so opening that up to, it's okay to be scared, it's also okay to get help, it's okay not to know the next step, it's okay to just be okay. And if you want to be more than okay, there's a lot of people out there who want to help you to be more than okay. And that's where we come to the next space. How are you being more than okay? What are you doing for emotional health and balance? What is your number one go-to tool, never miss, for creating emotional balance in your life?
Fasting. Fasting
Fasting.
is my number one thing. I And just to give you a quick snippet, because this is actually a really long story, I found out that one of the reasons I had so much weight on my body was because as a healer, you have to have the padding. And I didn't quite understand that. And when I went to my hypnotherapist and she said that every healer gets the same information, she says, I want you to imagine plugging up a lamp. And she said, think of the cord and it's long and skinny. And she said, what happens when you up the voltage? And I said, the cord gets bigger. The more amps you have, the bigger the cord has to be to carry that energy throughout the line. And when you're literally getting rid of disease and blocks and trauma within a 30-second window, you're running a lot of energy. And it would have destroyed my human body had I not had the body that can contain that energy. So when I got that information, I became completely 100%, because it came down to, am I going to be skinny and selfish and just live the life that I want to live, half-assed? Or am I going to truly live the life that I'm meant to and help people and be okay with my bigger body, even though the world says I should be skinny? I was like, there's only one choice as a human being I can make and be, completely right and fair and loving and love myself the way that I am and just be who I am. So I got the message that within a 10-year window, most of us would become skinnier and taller, or smaller and taller. Sorry, not skinny, smaller and taller. And at some point, they actually told me it's safe to release some of the weight. And so, how I started to do that, there's a whole program, because I actually have a program, it's 12 weeks long, about thinner, trimmer detox. But even when it comes to spirituality and being clear in your mind, and from biblical times, this has been happening. And if you look at any religion, usually fasting is a part of it, even if it's for a day. It is a great way to give your body a rest. We need to rest, and it's not just sleep. Rest comes from being hydrated. Rest comes from not digesting food. You give your liver and your stomach and everything a break. And so, even from a spiritual standpoint, years ago, I would do a fast to allow myself to become more in the spirit world. And it's amazing how accurate the psychic readings get when you're not eating food, okay, when you're not consuming. Because what we do is we just consume, 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 even when it's shopping. That is, we are literally a world of consumers. And so to take a break from that mindset, to take a break from that, the physical aspect, oh my God, is so rewarding. And so for me, my reset and my taking care of myself is always doing, whether it's a 24-hour fast or a 3-day fast or a 10-day fast, it's some kind of fast. And so when I found out that I could take the weight off, that I can start that process, I'm 100 pounds smaller now. And part of my process with that was fasting, amongst other things that I have done. But now I don't even have to try to release weight, and I'm smaller. So it's really it's a cool process when you start realizing, again, the human brain, the human body, how miraculous we really are, and you just allow yourself to be a part of the process of life instead of trying to fight it. Things become truly amazing. And one of the ways of being a part of the process of life instead of fighting is fasting.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, you see a lot of people tuning into fasting these days. And I love that you bring it up. People, this is not a fad. It has been around for centuries. People have been fasting and they have been doing all sorts of things, not because it happened last week or last month or on the internet, but because it's been literally written about in the Bible, in the ashram, in like all these different places. They are talking about for centuries different aspects and different fastings for different situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously do your homework and like don't just jump into it, or find someone who you trust to lead you in that space. But we are a group of consumers, and we are consuming like we've never consumed before on this planet. And it is around the world and global, the consumption that's taking place, and it is exhausting on all levels. And people are like, but I didn't really do anything. Well, you're scrolling Facebook, shopping Amazon, you're eating out 4 times a day. You're consuming, you are doing stuff. You, every one of those minutes counts as doing something. And so getting conscious in those spaces of what that looks like for you, it can really be beneficial in how to bring balance back to that space. And with that, in the space of all of the obstacles in your life and the different spaces where you saw that you were consuming, or just because as a healer, as an intuitive, as a psychic, you guys, you're picking up energy everywhere all the time, even when you don't want to. People say, oh, I'm an empath. Every single person on this planet is an empath, some higher levels, some lower levels, but everyone's an empath, which means there's always that silent vibrational conversation taking place. So for you, what did you lean into? What was a tool that helped you move through obstacles?
My healing. That
Mm-hmm.
was, I've been moving through obstacles since I started this path when I was 12 years old. My mother gave me the book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and I took it to
The
heart.
best book ever.
And then I went to, I think I will say it's a foundational book.
Yeah.
And it's the one book that I recommend to people, even though I no longer agree with the technique. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like at least understanding the brain, understanding the mind, if there's nothing else that you have to do, I would start with affirmation. But affirmation is the last thing I would tell you to do if you had a coach or
Yeah.
if you took my class or something. I would say stay away from affirmations. It's only a tool to use if you are doing things by yourself.
Right.
And when things go to crap in your life, don't think you're doing it wrong. You're actually doing it right. But I like to surpass that. I'm like, why would we suffer when we don't have to? But if that's the only tool you have, then it's going to take a little bit longer to get to where you need to be. But I mean, it's free. If you get the book, if you, it's free to do, it's free to use. So that to me is like the foundational aspect. Is starting with her book, and then you just grow from there, which is what I've done. I've grown from there, and I've helped my clients grow from there. But the question was, what did I lean into? What was I telling you? I forgot now. The book. That was the first one. My healing work. And so I've been doing healing work for, well, myself and my family for 20 years at this point. And it wasn't until I learned this new healing modality, and then I integrated every single modality that I had done into one, which is where the ascended healing comes from. And the ascension codes are the ones that I record so people can listen to the recording and actually get healed. And I think somewhere it's close to 200. It might be like 199, 198, something like that. But I have like 200 recordings of different healings and different webinars where the healing is there and people can listen and just change their lives. And I took 3 months of my life once I learned this modality and started to integrate it. I took 3 months and I started to heal myself every single day, even if it was only half an hour a day. That was my me time. That was my self love time. And within 3 months, my life was completely different. And when I say completely different, I'm talking about somebody wanting to move. Somebody knocked on my door and said, I just bought a place. Do you want to go check it out? If you do, you can rent it. And when I say my whole entire life changed, my income tripled. When I say my life changed, it was for the first time in my life I can say I'm consistently happy. So 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, my whole entire life changed. And that's what I did is I actually healed myself. So I would say that's the number one tool is I would never, and it's funny how the more successful you become, the more you understand this. But people who don't necessarily have a lot of money or they're struggling with some area of their life, they don't get that they need a coach. And the bigger you get, the more money you have, the more you will tell the people that you work with, never be without a coach. Even if you have to work out a trade to get a coach, you need somebody to be accountable to or somebody who can see your crap. Because do you know how many times you could talk to yourself and the stuff that you say makes sense, but the moment you say it out loud to somebody, you're like, oh my God, did I really believe that? Did I really decide that? Oh my God, it's like that moment where you actually can hear what you're saying. Your brain can no longer twist the truth. And so a coach is like the number two tool beyond healing, the number two tool that I would say never be without the tool that you need to use to get your life right in any area of your life, whether it's relationship, family, parenting, money. I don't care. You need a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, it's an evolution. She's not saying, oh, I read this one book and everything was like magic and rainbow and unicorns. And I had this one coach and my whole life changed. It led her to another and then another and then another and then another. And it's been an evolution. And she's already mentioned how it's been 23 years. That's not to dissuade people, it's to get real. People want to take a pill and be fine tomorrow. But waking up and taking responsibility for your life and having that open conversation of like, hey, I want things to change. It doesn't make me a bad person. I want to be happier. I want to be healthier. I want to be more connected. I want to show up for the family that I went out and like created. Like, hello, we're creating families. And a lot of people are like living that 9 to 5 driving around life, or at least before 2020, it was backseat babies. Where you're just living in the drive-through in car seats, and that's not always what you wanted, and it's okay. And so picking up the book, tuning into a healer, connecting with a coach, changing that conversation of like, this is what my life looked like before, this is the story I told myself that told me that this was what I wanted or that it was okay. And then having that person either say, are you really sure that that's what you wanted? And you going, no. Or them saying, are you really sure that that's what you wanted? And you going, yeah, can change the entire way you're showing up in your life. And that's okay. Because again, you're going to be afraid to do it, like we've been talking about for the last 40 minutes. We have this 2,000-year-old programming system that every single time you do something that's going to go outside of your general normal characteristic is going to go, nope, we're afraid of that. Don't do that. No, 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 breaks. But we have to at some point choose, I want to feel good, I want to be happy, I want to be healthy, I want to connect with people. And if you don't, cool. But odds are you really do. Deep down, the innate human wants to connect with other people around them. And so utilizing these spaces, utilizing these tools, utilizing the things that Adrien is talking about, and that we've talked about multiple different times, of shifting that for you to open that door. Maybe this is for you. Check it out. We're going to share the information with you. We're going to tell you, where can you find Adrien? Where can you connect with her? What are the programs that she's talking about? And then also recognizing that, like, living free for you is going to look completely different than living free for somebody else. And tuning into your own truth and your own life and your own being is not selfish. It is not sideways. It is not wrong. It is what every single human is here to do, because in our truth, we are helping other people. We are touching other people's lives. It is where we come and connect in the most innate spaces of humanity, is through our truths. And so really touching base in that space and getting honest helps us to open the doors that helps the next level of healing to come. And so with all of that, we've loved having you here, Adrien. We've loved all the things that you've talked about and shared about. And we know that like her programs are amazing, you guys. Like check them out. I totally stalked her before we came on here. Like I do that with all my guests. You already know that. You've heard me say it.
That's
like
funny.
because I'm not just going to share anybody with you. I'm going to share really amazing people with you who can legit like help you in the space of moving forward and living that freedom that you desire, that you want, and that you dream of. It's here. It's accessible. There are people showing up in the world to help you do that. So, right before, as we're getting ready to wrap up, what is one thing that if we were to hit end right now, what is the one thing you were like, oh my God, I wish I had said that?
Oh, I said everything I wanted to say. Yeah, I don't have that. I felt like that after you asked me about my tools and I said fasting and coaching. I was like, yes, she got there.
Out there, she did the thing.
She
Woo!
did it. She
Like
did
ring
it.
the bell, right?
Yeah.
And so we're so excited that you could be here today. Where can we find you?
You can find me generally on Facebook is the best way because I create a community there so people can ask questions. You can see testimonials. You can get my free healings there. And then, any course or anything I have, that you can see what I'm doing when I'm doing it, the webinars that I'm doing and when I'm doing it, how much they cost. And then on top of that, you can get on my email list, which you can do straight from my Facebook, which is Activate Cosmos. It's called, that's if you use the URL, but you can just do a search for Making Miracles Happen. That's the name of my group right
Perfect.
now. Yeah.
Perfect. And then you guys, you'll be able to find that all in the show notes and in the transcription and all those fun places. And don't forget, if you do have questions, leave them in the comments. We're going to answer your questions. We'll get them to Adrien so she can answer them if they're directed right at her. But the best way to get her to answer your questions directly is to go to facebook.com/groups activate cosmos and become part of her community. You guys, she's giving away free healings. Like, what's not to love about that? And you can really tune into her energy and see, okay, she's answering my questions. I really like her energy, because we all know we've been in different places where we're like, okay, this person's for me, this person's not for me. It's going to be different for everybody. But really, if you're being handed that lovely gift, it's like taking and somebody hands you a present, it's wrapped in a beautiful box. And we're all doing it. We're handing out these gifts constantly. And you can open it or you can not open it. But we hope that you really step up to the space of being the most magnificent you possibly can be in this world. And through that, it's by changing those 2,000-year-old program systems we're all carrying around in our beautiful matching luggage, that we're like, okay, so we're just going to shut the door again and pretend it's not there, or pull the curtain, right? Like, let's don the curtains, take the door off the hinges so you can't stop looking at it. Like, let's heal the things. So we're so glad that you've been here. We're so glad that you've tuned in with us. And we are so, so thankful to Adrien for coming and sharing the space with us. Thank you for being here. And we will tune into you again. And we can't wait to hear from you in the future. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.